Thank you very much for coming. I'm Robert Bijarek from Temple University's Institute of Asian Studies. And we're extremely happy to have Mary Claire and John, who will talk to us about Kony and about the problems of child soldiers. They'll speak for about 30-35 minutes and show some a small segment of the movie. And afterwards we'll have our usual Q&A. Just if a few things, if you have a mobile phone, you should put it on vibrate or silent. If you didn't get an invitation directly from us, there's a box out there in the back where you can give us your business card, or you can just give them to me, and I will make sure you add it to our email list. And there's also it's not a ballot box; it's a contribution box where you can contribute to our programs. So, which one of you is speaking first? Okay, so John. Videos first. Oh, so the video. So I just press play. Okay. Okay. Well, the younger people are, the more they adapt with this technology. So, Claire, you're younger than I am. So. Thank you. And we'll maybe turn off the light.
Right now, there are more people on Facebook than there were on the planet 200 years ago. Humanity's greatest desire is to belong and connect. And now we see each other. We hear each other.
Grandpa, I love you. I love you.
Why want to take a picture?
Sorry. We're just going to turn it up a little bit.
We share what we love, and it reminds us what we all have in common.
Dug out alive and well after 7.5 days.
If you believe in yourself, you will know how to ride a bike. Rock and roll!
So now technically your device is on. Yeah? Oh, it's exciting!
And this connection is changing the way the world works. Governments are trying to keep up.
No, we got this at the free door.
And older generations are concerned.
Many people are very concerned about tomorrow. They could get worse next year.
The game has new rules. The next 27 minutes are an experiment. But in order for it to work, you have to pay attention. Every single person in the world started this way. He didn't choose where or when he was born. But because he's here, he matters.
Yeah, we've been waiting for you. You made it.
My name is Jason Russell, and this is my son, Gavin. He loves jumping on the trampoline, being a ninja, and dancing.
What are you doing?
Thank you, Snow Angel.
How do you do that?
You do this.
And just like his dad, he likes being in movies.
Action.
Look out! Look out, people!
And than making movies.
Daddy, watch this. He got the video.
But he was born into a pretty complicated world. And as a dad, I want him to grow up in a better world than I did. And because of the course of events in my life, I see a way to get there. It has become my job.
Who are you to end a war? I'm here to tell you, who are you not to?
Hey Gavin, what's up?
Years before Gavin was born, the course of my life was changed entirely by another boy.
And who's this right here?
Jacob.
Who's Jacob?
Jacob is our friend in Africa.
It's been almost 10 years since Jacob and I became friends.
It's okay, they're nice. They're different than sharp.
But when my friends and I first met him in Uganda, in Central Africa, it was in very different circumstances. He was running for his life.
You go to school here.
Yes,
Yes, that's how you know English so well.
I know.
Yeah. How many nights have you stayed here?
The night I first met Jacob, he told me what he and other children in northern Uganda were living through.
We worry the rebel when they raise us again, then they will kill us. My brother tried to escape, then they kill using power. They cut his neck.
Did you see it?
I saw.
We fear that if we sleep at our home, we can be abducted by the rebels. Because our home is far away from town.
They will catch us, then they will take us there in the bush. So come here to save our life.
This has been going on for years. If that happened one night in America, it'd be on the cover of Newsweek.
What is it that you want to be when you grow up?
For me, I wanted to be lawyer, but no money. I don't have money to pay my school fees, so that I learned and then I be lawyer.
After spending a few weeks with Jacob, he told me something I would never forget.
So it is better when you kill us. And if possible, you can kill us, you kill us. For us, we don't want now to stay. Because
You don't want to stay on Earth.
we are only two, no one taking care of us. We are not going to school. So
You would rather die than stay on Earth.
Yes.
Now, even now.
Even now. Are we going to stay in our future?
He told me more about his brother and what he would say to him if he were still alive.
I love you, but now I miss you. So it is better when we meet. We are going, even if we are not going to meet, but we may meet in heaven. You see. So it is better. I will not talk much. I will start something. Because if I saw my brother once again, I don't.
Everything in my heart told me to do something. And so I made him a promise.
We are also going to do everything that we can to stop them. Do you hear my words? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
We're going to stop them. We're going to stop them.
I made that promise to Jacob, not knowing what it would mean. But now I do. Over the past 9 years, I have fought to fulfill it. And the fight has led me here, to this movie you're watching. Because that promise is not just about Jacob or me. It's also about you. And this year, 2012, is the year that we can finally fulfill it. And if we succeed, we change the course of human history. But time is running out. To level with you, this movie expires on December 31st, 2012. And its only purpose is to stop the rebel group, the LRA, and their leader, Joseph Kony. And I'm about to tell you exactly how we're going to do it. So the thing is, my son Gavin I've never really explained to him what I do. He knows I work in Africa, but he doesn't know what the war's about or who Joseph Kony is. So I'm going to explain it to him for the first time today. That's what we're doing. So Gav, are you ready? I'm going to ask you some questions, and you can just look at me and answer the questions to me.
I'm kind of nervous.
What do I do for a job?
I stop the bad guys from being me.
Who are the bad guys? Do you know where Star Wars people?
Yeah.
Those are the bad guys?
Yeah.
Can I tell you the bad guy's name?
Yeah.
This is the guy, Joseph Kony.
You're the bad guy?
Yeah. Who's this?
Jacob.
Joseph Kony, he has an army, okay? And what he does is he takes children from their parents and he gives them a gun to shoot, and he makes them shoot and kill other people.
But they're not going to do what he says because they're nice guys, right?
Yeah, they don't want to do what he says, but he forces them to do bad things. What do you think about that?
Sad.
I couldn't explain to Gavin the details of what Joseph Kony really does. Because the truth is, Kony abducts kids just like Gavin. For 26 years, Kony has been kidnapping children into his rebel group, the LRA. Turning the girls into sex slaves. And the boys into child soldiers. He makes them mutilate people's faces. And he forces them to kill their own parents. And this is not just a few children. It's been over 30,000 of them. And Jacob was one of those children. As if Kony's crimes aren't bad enough, he is not fighting for any cause, but only to maintain his power. He is not supported by anyone, and he has repeatedly used peace talks to rearm and murder again and again.
Kony, different times, proposed peace and then just regain strength and attack.
This is the head prosecutor for the International Criminal Court. In 2002, when the court was started, their job was to find and demand the arrest of the world's worst criminals. Although there are a lot of warlords, murderers, and dictators in the world, the perversity of Kony's crimes made him first on the court's list.
Kony is the first guy indicted by the SEC. But the crime basically are things like crimes against humanity and war crimes committed against the civilian population, including murder, sexual slavery, rapes, abductions. We need to plan how to arrest Kony. Start to plan and start to be serious. In fact, the only way to stop Kony is showing him, guy, we're going to arrest you.
What do you think we should do about it?
We should stop him.
The criminal here is Kony. Stop him and then solve all the problems.
We should stop who?
Him.
It's obvious that Kony should be stopped. The problem is 99% of the planet doesn't know who he is. If they knew, Kony would have been stopped long ago.
Let the world, let the international community take justice to him there. Follow him wherever he is. First, to rescue our children. And secondly, to deliver the justice.
We are determined to cooperate with any friend of Uganda to ensure that this mindless killing and slaughter is ended.
When my friends and I came home from Uganda, we thought that if the government knew, they would do something to stop him. But everyone in Washington we talked to said there is no way the United States will ever get involved in a conflict where our national security or financial interests aren't at stake.
No administration, Republican, Democrat, Obama, Bush, Clinton, doesn't matter, would do enough because it's simply not an important enough issue on the radar screen of American foreign policy.
Since the government said it was impossible, we didn't know what else to do but tell everyone we could about Jacob and the invisible children.
To show this movie to as many people as possible in such a way that we can't be ignored.
And when we did, people were shocked, and their awareness turned into action. We started something, a community.
I have friends that have been living in this conflict their entire life. Fight for that, because that is what is going to change this world, and that is what defines us.
We got creative, and we got loud.
It's not over! It's not over! It's not over!
And as the LRA began to move into other countries, Jacob and other Ugandans came to the US to speak on behalf of all people suffering because of Kony. Even though Uganda was relatively safe, they felt compelled to tell the world that Kony was still out there and had to be stopped.
I'm here so proud advocating for the people who are back at home. And this change we're going to make is going to last forever.
We built a community around the idea that where you live shouldn't determine whether you live. We were committed to stop Kony and rebuild what he had destroyed. And because we couldn't wait for institutions or governments to step in, we did it ourselves, with our time, talent, and money. So we rebuilt schools.
The best you can offer a child is by letting them be independent, and that was providing education.
We created jobs.
I have seen the lives of those who have been hopeless. Now they have hope.
And we built an early warning radio.
Okay, so we decided not to show the whole documentary because it's about, I think, half an hour, 20 minutes or something. Is it half an hour? Yeah. What's my connection with all this? In December last year, Robert and Marie-Claire, Robert is the convener of these events, and Marie-Claire is a student here. They asked me to come and talk to the audience about my experiences growing up in Uganda. That was way before this documentary was made, way before Kony 2012 and the hysteria about it. It took this long for us to actually get together and have this event. Two more things. I'm not in any way involved with the Invisible Children's Charity. And yes, so my experience about Uganda is basically I was born there. I lived in Kenya as well and in England. And when I was in primary school, I encountered an incident involving Kony or Kony and his gang. And so today's presentation will basically cover 2 years ago. I went back to Uganda for the first time in a long time. almost 20 years. So the pictures you'll see and the story I'll tell kind of retrace the route I took 2 years ago when I went back. So I'll show some pictures and I'll make some commentary as we go along. So first we'll begin with a reading and an explanation. Uganda has many languages. There are over 20 languages. And in the south of the country, one language is Luganda, which is in the brackets, Luganda. And Kadogo. Kadogo basically means a child soldier in Luganda. The word is from the Swahili. Swahili is a very common language in East Africa, which is Mudogo, which basically means a small person. So first, I'll have a quick reading. When I was preparing for this presentation, I asked somebody who had experienced child soldiers to tell me something about his experience, and this is what he sent me in the email. Yes, it was a Kadogo, a child soldier, who arrested me. I was wearing a beret, kind of cap. As I walked to visit my school friend, I saw a group of young soldiers heading towards me on foot. I took the cap off and hid it in my pocket, but they had already recognized the cap. When they caught up with me, the Kadogo asked me to empty my pockets. He arrested me on the spot for possession of military attire. I tried to explain. The cap was given to me by my sister, who was living abroad. It wasn't the official military type. But they didn't believe me. They marched me off to their afende. Afende means like post commander, their superior, who ordered the Kadogos to remove my shoes, and they brutally tied up my arms together at the elbows behind my back. This is a very cruel way of treating people. You basically, you pin someone's shoulders until they meet at the back, and then you tie them up. The Afende, the post commander, was convinced that it had something to do with the death of a soldier in the nearby area. I denied any involvement. My nightmare took a turn for the worse. I was brutally flogged as I lay kicking and screaming on the dusty road. They went on to loop part of the rope I was tied with over a branch of a nearby tree. So there's a tree nearby. They used the same rope that he was tied with to loop the rope over the branch, and they basically pulled him up with his shoulders, with his elbows still tied. So he was balancing like so. Yeah, so they looped the part of the rope I was tied with over the branch nearby, over a nearby tree, and they yanked me upwards onto the tree with my feet barely touching the ground. To this day, I don't know how my chest did not tear apart, or how my arms supported the full body of my weight on that tree. After further beatings, I was eventually persuaded by the Afende, after the further beatings, I eventually persuaded the Afende to send me under escort to my house to get my student's ID. He was a student. They spoke to my aunt, who was at home, and my aunt pleaded with them to let me go. They finally released me when they found out that he was a student and not a rebel. The whole experience lasted about 4 hours. It left me severely mentally and physically, it left me with severe mental and physical scars, but time heals, and I think I'm over it now. This is an image of this very cruel treatment. This is part of a medical report on torture in Uganda. And it says up there, this is a very severe form of torture where the upper arms are tied behind the back. It results in severe stretching of the muscles around the chest. It's also known as a three-piece suit. It damages the neuromuscular function of the upper limbs, so it can cause So now I will turn to the journey I made 2 years ago when I went to Uganda for the first time. And then the next year I went back to Uganda and I took some pictures. So this is Uganda. This is the flight in to the airport. This is, so flying over Uganda. I was very disappointed because I mean it seems like there were no more trees in the country. Things have changed in 20 years. So this is just as you come to land at Entebbe Airport. It's right next to Victoria Lake. It's probably the biggest lake in Africa. This is the road going down into the capital. It's called the Entebbe Road, and Kampala is the capital of Uganda. I saw this sign after 20 years of civil war. It was really good to see a sign like this. It's a street sign, but it's very encouraging. People seem to be enjoying themselves. The city is coming into view. Three-way traffic, as I call it. So it's not uncommon in Kampala to see a sign like this. Random cows next to cars. And if it gets too busy, you can just have a cow taxi. So, interestingly, later on you'll see a picture of the school I was in when Kony and his rebels attacked. And we basically escaped on a truck similar to this one. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. This is where my dad currently lives. So my dad's still in Uganda. So when I went to see him, this is where I stayed. We had very wonderful fresh fish. Some sorted tomatoes, and this is an old-fashioned, traditional stove using charcoal. The girl making this food works. She lives with my dad. My dad is quite old now, so he has a helper. The girl making this food was somewhat involved in the whole Kony business. I went to my old nursery school. This is called the Jack and Jill Primary School. The Jack and Jill Nursery and Primary School. It looked pretty good, you know, for 20 years with civil war and all the rest of it. So it still looks in pretty good shape. This was the primary school I was in for a few years. It's called the Norman Godino Primary School. Norman Godino is an Indian name actually. In 1971, there was a military takeover in Uganda, and there was a dictator called Idi Amin who was very brutal, and he basically kicked out all the Europeans and the Indians. And so when the Indians left, this school was left behind, but it still maintained the old Indian name, but it was renamed when I was there. It was very emotional for me to go back to this school after so many years. We came across a cultural festival. I remember being involved in the cultural festival when I was there. This girl, she's wearing a red shirt. The school system in Uganda is based on the old British school system. So for sports festivals, everyone's divided into teams. And she was a red shirt wearer, which means she was part of the Robin team, as I was. Another thing I was involved in when I was there is the Boys Scouts. We would march around this area, and I recently found out that the Scouts actually was invented by a British colonial army officer called Baden-Powell. Well, I knew he'd invented it, but I didn't realize that the Scout system was actually based on child soldiers. When the British were having their colonial wars with the Dutch, or the Boers in South Africa, around 1899, this particular person who invented the Boy Scouts movement and the Girl Scouts movement used young children to spy on the enemy. And he wrote a book on it called Scouting for something or other. But he later on created the Scouts movement. And funnily enough, those are child soldiers even then. Next, some drums. I was very good at drumming, apparently. can't remember. So yeah, this was just me enjoying myself, taking lots of pictures. They were very good. The school itself had changed a lot. When I was there, on the walls, they had pictures of, science, parts of the body, stuff like that. But Uganda has had a huge AIDS problem, and so has most parts of Africa. And when I went there in 2009 and 2010, most of the walls, most of the painting on the walls had changed from pictures of hearts and lungs and skulls, science drawings, to messages about safe sex and AIDS. This is a primary school. This is some of the stuff. That's some of the same. Be kind to your friends. Don't laugh at people with AIDS. Protect yourself from HIV. So some things have changed. This is the old estate where we used to live. This is the old... the estate was basically a huge area with about, 40 houses, and it was an enclosed neighborhood, and at the back there was this gate. This is where I saw the first person ever get shot dead. I think I was 6 years old. Some people were arrested for something, and they were lined up and they were gunned down. So living in Uganda in the 80s was basically lots of random violence. So from the back of the gate, you look up towards the hill. This is a very famous hill called Tank Hill, where all the rich people live. We didn't live there. And I went up to the hill, and now I'm looking back down towards where our house used to be. Between the hill and where we lived, there's a famous place called Kabalagala. It's like a kind of Roppongi of Uganda, I suppose. Now, going back to the dinner I was having, the lovely fish dinner I was having, it was basically made by, let's call her Beatrice. She's a girl who lives with my dad. She grew up in the north, where Kony and his rebels were active. And because of the killings, the abductions, the government basically rounded up all the villages and placed them in camps, pretty much what you'd call a concentration camp. But it was supposed to be for their own good, to protect them from being abducted by the rebels, because if they were living out in the villages, the rebels would be able to abduct them. So she was one of the camp children. Many thousands of children were born in camps. So their whole lives, all they knew was basically camp life. And this is one of the girls who was born and raised in the camp up in the north. And now she was staying with my dad down in the capital, in the south, where it's safer. This is me walking around. I had hair, lots of hair. Later on the hair will be gone, and I'll explain why. So I decided to go up north, where the Kony activity is taking place. That's also where I'm from. That's where my parents are from, my grandparents are from. I hadn't been there since I was 6 years old. I'd only been there once before in my life. So I decided to go back and to find out where my roots were. As you notice, my hair has come off. My dad advised me, if you're going to go up there, it's a rebel country, you have to cut your hair, because the rebels often, as you saw with Kony, have long dreads. And my dad's worry was that I might get confused for a rebel. So he said, if you're going to go up to the north, you have to cut your hair. This is on the bus along the way. My mother was on a similar bus back in 1986 or so. That bus was attacked by Kony and his rebels. The lady next to my mom was shot dead. My mother survived. The bus was riddled, full of bullets. But when I went back 20 years later, things weren't so bad. We got offered pineapple instead. This is coming into Gulu, the town where Jacob, the child in the documentary we just watched, that's where he's from. So we're going into the town center now. This is the view from my hotel. Funnily enough, when I was there, I saw this group of, I guess, Americans playing their guitars and singing along. So things are changing. I guess these are probably missionaries, or they may be part of the Invisible Children charity. I'm not sure, but I was completely shocked to see this. Well, what do you know? Part one. There are more surprises coming up. Signs of progress, banks. This is a war zone, remember, or it was. Meeting the locals, this is I guess this is the height of fashion in Gulu right now. I met somebody amazing. This guy is called Labongo, or Labongo. He was a child soldier. He tried to escape. So they basically caught him and they shot his kneecaps off. So he walks with crutches, but he's become a very good rapper, a very good singer. In Uganda, he's pretty well known. He's really a kind of sign of hope and perseverance. Somebody to have gone through what he's gone through and to do as well as he's doing. I was very impressed. I had an interview with him. We talked. We're friends. Great guy. I also met some interesting people. This is a very old Indian man. He's been in Uganda since the 1930s. He had so many interesting stories to tell. This is his buddy. He's also from India. I found out from them that, back in the 70s and 80s, there were all kinds of weird gun-running things, syndicates going on. So people often say about Africa, Africans don't make guns, apart from South Africans. Where did they get all these guns? Well, they were explaining to me how, back in the day, there were people who were bringing guns in, and I won't tell you which one of them was involved. They were very honest with me. I was really surprised. So the hotel that I was staying in, the one with the great view, I came downstairs for breakfast one day, and I saw a group of people sitting in the corner having a meeting, and I thought, this can't be true. And yes, it was a group of Japanese people. So I walked up to them and I was like, oh, hi, gozaimasu. And they were like, hey! I was like, seriously? They were completely stunned, they were shocked, they were surprised that anybody spoke Japanese in Uganda. They actually belong to a Japanese NGO called Terra Renaissance. They're based in Tokyo. And these are all volunteers, some of them are students, and they work with child soldiers in Gulu. Their head, who's actually not in this picture, I have no idea where he was, he'd been living in Gulu for about 7 years, and he spoke the language better than I do. Amazing. But yeah, that was, well, what do you know, part two? I think they were more surprised than I was. And I was talking to them in Japanese only. I made sure I talked to them only in Japanese. They're like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from Ibaraki. Ibaraki? So, I lived in Ibaraki for a while. Again, signs of progress, clean buildings. So now I'm heading up towards where my dad was born, the village. It's about a 2-hour drive through dirt roads. I came across this ambulance. I think it's a Japanese donated ambulance. But does it work? I didn't think it did. But it was there. Another surprise, right in the deep jungle of Uganda, there's a market, a very small market, and, well, what do you know, the Chinese man selling his keitai. Keitais. So, I mean, these are some of the surprises you get when you travel through Africa. He was all by himself, just this one Chinese guy in deep African jungle selling his keitais. This was my parents' old home. 25 years later, it's still, well, as you can see, it's a rubble. The foundations are still there. Somebody had decided to build their mud hut on top of it. We had a very interesting discussion because I walked up to him and said, oh, this is my parents' property. He was like, no, it's not, it's my dad's property. So we had this whole debate about whose property it belonged to. I think the debate's still going on. But as you can see, the foundations are still there. Some of the brickwork is still there, but that's what war does. Some local kids. And finally, this is where my parents were born, or my dad was born. It's where my grandmother lies. So just beneath this tree, that's where grandmother, rests. She lived to 95 years old. Amazing. Because right now, the average age in Uganda is about 47. So it's amazing what happened. Yeah, that's me. Okay, So I went back on the road to go to the old primary school where I was for only a few months when Kony attacked. And this is it. This is the front gate. I could barely remember it. So the school is called Negri. It's named after an Italian. As you can see, it's the Bishop Angelo Negri Primary School. It was a Catholic school. Incidentally, Kony himself was Catholic. He was a choir boy. I don't think he went to the same Catholic school, but it's amazing what Catholicism, no, whatever. Kony's inspiration was this rebel leader. She was actually more, well, she preceded Kony. Her name was Alice Laquena. She also had a religious Christian rebel group. When she pretty much left the country, some of her soldiers, I guess, joined Kony's group. But she basically inspired the whole Kony movement. And this is the school where we were when Kony's rebels attacked. As you can see, 25 years later, things haven't changed. But, things have changed a lot. When I was there, it was nothing like this. It was very, very different. It's a random sign. Again, the AIDS signs everywhere. And that's me. So we used to call ourselves old boys and new boys. I'm an old boy, an OB. These are all newbies, or new boys. Again, it's based on the old English school system. Again, oddly enough, when I was walking through Gulu Town Center, I came across this guy with his camera. So I'm curious, is he one of the invisible children people? It's funny how things have come around this way. Almost coming. So the letter here that I read, the story of being tied up and being brutalized, is actually by my brother. This is him, in the white. I guess he was about 15 or 16 when this was taken. And his horrible incident happened to him when he was, or just a few months, I suppose, before this picture was taken. That over there, that was me. And that's it. This is the motto of our school, wisdom and knowledge. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Hi everybody, my name is Claire Bagazonzya. I'm a student at Temple University. I was born in Kenya, in Nairobi, and moved when I was really young to Uganda. So I grew up in Uganda most of my life before I moved to the States. So when I moved to the States, I heard about Invisible Children. Prior to that, I knew about Kony and the child soldiers and the war and everything, but I lived in Kampala, the city, so as a kid you really don't know what you could possibly do that, although you're kind of close, you just you don't really know what to do. So once I moved to the States, I found out about Invisible Children and their work, and I started contacting them, finding out what they're all about, how they started. I did my intensive research about it. And so that was around 2004, and I've been a supporter since, aiding in their campaigns, promotions, awareness, and all the different programs. I'm going to talk about some of the programs they have in northern Uganda, although, of course, the LRA is still not there. It's important to keep making an effort and keep helping the people there to, rehabilitates, so to speak. So some of the programs they have in northern Uganda are a Schools for Schools program, and basically the program partners 11 secondary schools in northern Uganda and the surrounding communities. It also helps build school structures, invest in teacher training, and facilitates a yearly teacher exchange program between the U.S. and Uganda. Their second program, the Legacy Scholarship Program, provides fully paid merit-based scholarships to students in Uganda. And it also helps mentoring from local full-time Invisible Children mentors. And their third program, which is the Livelihood Program, provides sustainable economic growth and improves livelihoods of people in northern Uganda and the surrounding areas that were affected. And lastly, their other program called MEND is an enterprise that focuses on facilitating financial independence and development for women in northern Uganda. So it basically gives them a job, so they can pay bills like a yearly stipend and so forth. Next, I want to show a short video, brief 3-minute about the programs in Central Africa now, despite the conflict going on there right now. I'll briefly explain them, and then I have some pamphlets that will be passed around. So if you want to know more, you can read about it. In Central Africa right now, they have an HF early warning radio network that helps warn communities around, because the areas in Central Africa are really remote. They're very far away from any clinics, any radio station, any kind of way to communicate that there's been an attack. So there's warning systems. They help warn people, the villagers and everybody around them. And they also have an FM radio system that broadcasts messages of defection for people who want to leave the LRA. So it's kind of like a motivational thing. And then there's the Rehabilitation Centers that are built to help the people who are affected and escape from the LRA, and also to basically any psychological mentoring help, any kind of reintegrate them into society. I want to show you the LRA crisis tracker as well. This is an example. So basically, this was made by by efforts of Invisible Children and Resolve. Resolve is also another organization that started out in Uganda, but has its headquarters in the U.S. And it basically tracks, with the help of the early warning radio system and the FM system, it helps the people on the ground, the people in these affected areas, kind of are responsible for updating this website and showing the different areas that are being attacked. So yeah, it dates back from all the way from 2008 until now. So you can see updates. Here it shows there was just an attack on April 5th. So it's updated almost every second. Okay, so I'm going to show you the video short. I don't know if most of you have seen, but this is the part 2 to the first video, so it kind of explains more of what the first video might have been lacking.
Learning from these challenges of the past is crucial to achieve success going forward.
Everyone across the board will agree is a complex one, and it requires a multi-pronged approach.
Invisible Children is just one of many organizations on the ground, and we were not the first. Stopping the LRA violence is possible, but it will take increased support for the comprehensive efforts conceived and led by local leaders. Many of the communities vulnerable to attacks have no way to be warned of LRA movements. In response, local partners are building an early warning radio network.
Les projets d'alerte précoce. Et voilà que ce rêve s'est réalisé aujourd'hui.
If there is a radio communication, it gives enough time to save lives.
Kony and his top commanders use paralyzing fear tactics to discourage escape. So local partners are using FM radio broadcasts and flyers to send messages directly to the LRA about how to escape.
Je suis le fondateur de la radio Zereda de Kiev. Comme on a reçu des témoignages d'un combattant qui nous a témoigné, qui nous a suivis, et il était sorti, je me suis en l'aise.
We were contacted by the UN, who asked us to design flyers that would be culturally sensitive and reach out to the LRA directly.
It gives them hope. A wife of Joseph Kony defected from CAR because she saw the flyer.
Supporting rehabilitation in the communities currently affected by the LRA is crucial.
Il y a eu des centaines et des centaines d'enfants qui ont été enlevés par la LRA. Il faut un accompagnement psychosocial, l'aider à s'intégrer dans la communauté.
Invisible Children has committed to build a rehabilitation center, which the first phase is finished.
Supporting reconstruction in the post-conflict areas in northern Uganda is also crucial for lasting peace.
When you have had 20 years of war, you don't just fix that in a few months, a few years.
Business is booming because there's peace now in northern Uganda. The community in Acholiland take ownership of their own community.
It is very important to invest in education.
Since 2005, over 4,000 students have benefited from our program.
I wanted to be a lawyer since I was still in primary level. Right now I'm achieving it. I joined a law firm. I want to promote justice in my community. I want to promote justice in the whole world.
These first three steps are critically important, but unless Joseph Kony and his top commanders surrender or are arrested, their atrocities will not stop.
The ICC has indicted Joseph Kony, but they don't have an army. They are waiting for Kony to face justice. But how does justice happen?
If you want to watch more of the video, you can find it on their website or just Google it. So yeah, that's what I really wanted to focus on, the programs in Northern Uganda and the programs in Central Africa, that, you know, the money and the efforts that they've put in for all these years is paying off, and it's actually doing some good. You know, if you don't, you know, if you believe what you see, you know, in the media and what people tell you, but then it's another thing when you see the actual people who are benefiting from these programs, you know, speaking to you and telling you and showing you the difference. So, yeah. That's it.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you very much, Claire and John, for your very moving testimonial. And thank you, Claire, for organizing all this. So we'll start with questions, discussions, comments. So I think the microphone is circulating it out. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and the microphone will go to you. And then you and Claire can answer. Hello. Sorry, excuse me.
Hello. Thank you very much for sharing your presentation. I just want to talk about the videos. Do you think that the second video has a much different focus than, say, the first video? Because what I got from the first video, like you said, I've listened to the media and I've given my reaction based off of that. It seems more like it's focused against getting, or focused on getting Kony, I guess. I don't know how to put it, but do you think that the second video kind of takes a different turn? I think the positive benefits in this is obviously these information sessions and having the word spread about Uganda, but I want to know if you think the first video kind of gave a different impression on that. What's your thoughts on that?
Thank you. Yes, the first video did come off as I guess, kind of dumbing down the conflict. And of course, it's a complex one. Everybody agrees it's a complex one. But I think for that, they were trying to aim to kind of make it more simply, to simplify it more so people could understand what's going on. And he did, of course, make a couple mistakes and leave out a chunk of what it's about. But the second video, I guess, is kind of like a, I don't know how to put it. It's kind of like okay, here you go. This is what we missed out, and this is what we've been doing, and this is what we're doing, and this is what you can do to help, and how the progress. I think actually a month after the first video was released, the African Union came together and they decided to send out 5,000 troops to capture Kony and his top LRA commanders. So you can't, although it might have its faults to most people in the public eye, the first video, you can't ignore the fact that it has actually, brought some change and brought some action. So yes, I do agree with you.
Hi, I just wanted to maybe open up a discussion about, there's been a lot of allegations against invisible children about maybe that they have been taking money that they get from charities and not using a very high percentage of that money towards things such as promotion and like filming and stuff like that, and not donating a very substantial amount towards charities. And since I'm not very knowledgeable about the organization, I was wondering if you have anything to say on that, any thoughts on that?
Thank you. Basically, Invisible Children, if many of you have been following, they put out a response to all those questions about like how they spend their money and where it's allocated, and a big chunk of it is allocated towards advocacy or awareness, paying for the roadies and the interns to go around and spread this across the country, which, by the way, they're not paid interns or paid roadies. They do it basically for free. But I think it's necessary. Like, I'm not one to say I know exactly how a non-profit, non-governmental organization works, but it's based off donations. And in order to, I guess, bring all the change they've brought and all the impact and getting people to know about it, I mean, I understand why they would use that much or like that ridiculous amount of percentage of their money to go around and advocate and let people know about it, because in the end they're still doing what they set out to do, which is get people aware and then make action, make it happen. And so I believe the way they're spending their money might not be, might not make sense to everybody else, but if you look more into it and see how they're spending it and the results from it, I think it makes sense.
What do you think the key of the success, that the activity can successfully involve local people? My awareness is that, yes, the local people recognize that the Kony is problematic existence. However, if they take action, they will take the risk of receiving some revenge, for example. Then how that activity can successfully involve the support or get the support of local people.
Oh, you mean the advocacy and awareness?
Yeah, advocacy, awareness, or, for example, or doing some actions like as we saw on the video.
Basic. From what I've seen and what I've heard, like personal stories I've heard, testimonials, I've met some of the Ugandan people who work in northern Uganda, or the people in Central Africa who work on the ground. And basically, they too believe that it's important for people to know about it. They also go out and let people in their areas know what's going on and keep them updated. So it might not, some locals might not necessarily I agree. Might not necessarily, see them doing any change, or might not necessarily agree with how they're doing it, but there are those who do see the results and do appreciate, and those are the ones who, I guess, go in and participate, and they're like, look, this is what we're trying to do, and this is what's being done, so, kind of help us, but it's not like a forced thing. So some people are going to accept it and some people are not. So it all depends on, who.
I just want to add one more thing. When I was in Uganda the last 2 times, it seems to me that the government doesn't really, I wouldn't say they don't do anything, but most of what gets done is done through NGOs and through grassroots movements. I mean, there's no social welfare program, for instance. Government involvement with people's day-to-day lives is really around security issues and the usual politics. But for people to get things done, the way I've looked at it, it's basically aid agencies, it's NGOs, it's local communities getting together and deciding we're going to make things happen for ourselves. If you waited for government to help you in Africa, you'd wait for a very long time, especially in Uganda.
I want to commend what you people has done, because I believe that every good deed is a good deed, no matter how minute it is. My question goes to you. Sorry, yes, sorry, yes. I don't remember your name. But my question is this. We talk about Kony, and it seems a diversion is given. Nobody remembers Museveni. What role do you think Museveni's management of Ugandan economy has played to sprout up Kony's progress? How can you match the two? Who is more evil?
Thank you. Sorry, who is more?
Evil.
Evil, right. Well, I mean, that's a good question, because the story I told about my brother, that actually wasn't Kony's young child soldiers who did that. That was the current president's child soldiers who did that. So, child soldiers is a problem that really is around the world. In Africa, it's not just Uganda, it's not just the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's not just Central African Republic, it's Sudan, it's Chad, it's Sierra Leone, it's Ivory Coast, it's Mozambique back in the day. But it's not just Africa, it's Indonesia, it's Sri Lanka, it's Nepal. You can really, historically, you can go back to the Boy Scout movement that I was talking about. I mean, that movement came off child soldiers. So it's not a Kony problem alone. It's not an African problem alone. It's a global problem. And as you rightly point out, I mean, the current Ugandan president, when he came into power, he had a whole bunch of child soldiers with him. It's a very complicated issue. Who's more evil? I have no idea.
Hello. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing your experience today. I just wanted to add to your list of child soldiers also Colombia and Venezuela. But I wanted to ask something regarding the numbers. So apparently Kony is now somewhere in Congo, and I guess deep in the jungle, Congolese jungle, it's not very easy to find anyone, right? So we have, let's say, 5,000 troops going in. It's reported that it's only 250 of them, Kony and his troops. I don't know if that's an exact number. I have no idea. This is just what we get from the media. But also, it's reported that about 25,000 children or more, up to anywhere from 25,000 to 60,000, depending on the source, have at some point been abducted. So I'm wondering, if we're down to like 250, have all the children just been able to leave? And And also, I was wondering if Invisible Children is doing anything presently in Congo in regards to preventing more abductions and so on and so on. Thanks.
Thank you. As far as the numbers, his army being 250, I cannot personally say I know that for a fact, but of course, these numbers do come from somewhere. So although his army is a lot less than before, it's still causing a lot of damage. I mean, this website, if you go on it, it shows you how many attacks have been made and how many, where, and, a bunch of, details. As far as programs in Congo, they actually have a rehabilitation center built, and I think now they're, I guess, putting it all together, hiring workers and all that. And the rehabilitation center is primarily for people who have either defected or who have been able to escape, and basically helps them psychologically. It also helps them also reintegrate into society, because a lot of them, when they escape, they don't think the society is going to accept them for all the evils they've done, but it's very necessary for the community and the society that they go back into, that they know they're going to be accepted, that they didn't do this at their own free will. So the rehabilitation center that's built in Congo is doing a lot of that, getting them reintegrated back into society and go back to, I guess, as normal as they could be than before. And yeah, I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
I know everyone keeps asking about the video, and so there's a reason, just out of curiosity, the video came out about a month or 2 months ago, and it seemed like the Invisible Children just came out of nowhere. And apparently the video expires 2012, so this was the year to put it out. But you guys have been doing stuff from 2004 in Uganda, yeah? But I personally have never heard of Invisible Children until this video came out on Facebook. And it just seemed like it came out with we're going to get Kony, and that's what the focus was on. But is there a reason why you you waited until this year, not you per se, but the Invisible Children waited until this year to release the video? Was there a strategy behind it, or they just decided to release it because they made it and it's going to expire? What was the purpose behind it? Do you know?
Since this installment right now, there have been either, altogether now, there are about 11, counting the new one, there are 12 documentaries. I guess because they're based in the United States, they've been doing, they've only been able to, I guess, advocate and, get around across, the United States. From my perspective, I think it's pretty well known, but I can't understand how most people don't know about Invisible Children. It's kind of like a word of mouth kind of thing. That's how most organizations, at least NGOs, are. Why they waited until now to put out the video is because in 2010, May 2010, they were able to go to President Obama and his administration and present him with a LRA disarmament bill that was focused on, arresting Kony and, telling him to give up arms, not violently, but, to get him to surrender first, and arrest him and, for him to be tried, because he's been indicted since 2005, a year before he left Uganda for good. So I think the bill expires in 2012. So if they're not able to capture, I don't want to use the word capture, if they're able to arrest Kony and take him to The Hague to be tried for his crimes, and also his top LRA commanders, then it might just go on for more years but I guess it's because of the bill that has a deadline. And I guess they're only allowed to stay, U.S. and the UN are only allowed to stay in South Africa for that long.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Please, sorry, I know so many people are raising their hands, but please, this will be my last question. Like I said before, every good deed is a good deed, no matter from where it comes from. But there's this, something people have noticed. Why? My question is to you, lady. Yes. Why is it that most times, if not all the time, it takes much as it's, from a human being, but it takes outsiders to tell Africans what to do or to solve African problem for Africans? Whether it's economic, IMF, or World Bank, whether it's Lord Resistance Army in Uganda, whatever is the problem, often solutions or what should be done often comes from Africans. Often comes from outsiders to tell Africans what to do. Why? What is wrong with Africa? What is wrong with Africans? I think that way. Thank you.
I'd like to help you answer that question.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm African, and before you answer this question, I would like to just say that we're talking about child soldiers. And I think outsiders, I understand what you mean, but in this case, I think that outsiders should help Africa in this case because they brought the guns. We didn't invent the guns. The children did not invent the gun. East Africa, I'm from East Africa. We don't have guns. I don't know which part of Africa you're from, sir. But I think that there's a lot of problems in Africa that has to do with children and a lot of other things. But if you look at it, most of the problems are brought from outsiders. And as Africans, it becomes very overwhelming for us to actually try and help ourselves. And it goes down to, of course, I'm here today and I'm willing to help because I know better. But it goes down all the way down to education. If I am not educated and I live in Africa and I'm surviving under $1 a day, I don't know how I would like to help this man next to me here. There's no way I would want to help my friend. If I'm surviving, I'm struggling with a family. I'm a woman of like 20 years old with 6 children, no job. I don't know where I would find the heart to help my neighbor. So as Africans, yes, we need to help ourselves. That I agree. But in this case, I think outsiders need to help them. Thank you, sir. Your turn.
To answer your question,
Okay, go on.
basically, there's a lot of problems that have gone on in Africa. We've had to have outside help, and we Africans take a lot of pride in ourselves to help ourselves. But with situations like this, where it's been going on for 26 years, and it's still continuing, and the efforts we've made are not making real results, I see fit that other people come in, and if they're more than willing to come in and help us and get it done, then why not? So.
Okay, I'm sorry, my question's a little bit on the same lines as what we've been talking about, but the person that made this video is obviously American. I'm also American, and he's basically saying in this video that he wants, he has the bill and he wants American soldiers to go in and help, correct? Well, my question is America has done that before to other countries, and we've really ruined countries, and like we replace leaders with worse leaders and things like that. Are you sure you want the help from America? or would you rather it come from like a different country or a different source or a different place than America?
Actually, I think it's a combination of I think the U.S. troops are there as like logistics support. There are only 100 of them, as far as I know, only 100, and it's a combination of regional governments and African Union this time. So going back to answering your question, the Americans are basically giving logistics support, but the actual troops are being provided by the African Union and by regional countries, Sudan, Uganda, Congo, and sorry, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Central African Republic. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, I guess in this case, Africans are trying to help themselves.
You both are. You both are. That's why you're here. Fantastic. Thank you.
I'd just like to make a couple of comments. Africa's not one country. It's lots of countries, and lots of countries are doing different things. And I think it's a little bit simplistic to put them all together. And the other thing I'd just like to say is I work for a refugee support group, and I travel around and I meet people who, I've just come back from Uganda, and I see a lot of people who are helping each other and who are doing fantastic things and being very positive and moving forward. So there's some good things there as well.
Thank you.
Just like I want to comment on the comment that was like done just like a few minutes ago. I'm from Jordan. Jordan is an Arab country, and we have the Arab Spring, so we can maybe have a kind of like view here. The Arab Spring was moved. The start was from the people, and the people started talking about themselves, talking to others about what's happening. And people from other countries started to understand what's happening in the Arab countries. So everything was done by the people, and everything was done like peacefully. So what I suggest is just like to spread the information, and you don't have to fight back. You just like make people understand that they are not alone, that they are facing the same thing together, and just like stand up and say it peacefully. We are against it. So I think that is a kind of like suggestion. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm from Africa as well. I'm from Morocco. My question is very simple, actually. Do you think if they arrest Kony, like the problem would be solved? Don't you think that like other organizations such as Kony's will be created after him? Like, what do you believe, like, in your heart? Will something change or not?
Excuse me, please, can I help and
That's a really simple but complex question too. Yes, you know, arresting Kony and his, they're also aiming for. I think 2 of his top commanders have been indicted as well. So arresting him and his top commanders, I guess, is a way of defusing the army, because most of the, I don't want to assume, but my personal opinion is most of the people in the army, that, you know, whether they're children or, you know, they started as children and now are as adults, once they see like that leadership is gone, I mean, they're bound to not want to fight anymore, because right now, to me, I feel like they've been fighting for so long for something they don't even believe in and something they don't even want, that I feel like once that leadership is gone, it will probably diffuse the army more. I don't know if, you know, there's a possibility of, you know, someone coming in and like, you know, reinventing it like Kony did before Lakwena, but I mean, I think the purpose is to kind of just you know, stop him now and try to like stop it from becoming on a bigger scale, so to speak.
One battle at a time. Fighting one battle at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short if it's okay. Just to relate, like, why I asked the question that I asked first about the difference in videos. Well, the first video obviously did its job. It brought awareness to the people about the issue. And it created an action. I think after this, it's basically just people trying to justify the action that they're making in the country. So you're going to get all these questions about, is it right to do this or is it wrong to do this? But basically, the Invisible Children did their job of creating awareness and making an action on it. And then you can, the only thing that's going to justify is the ends with the means.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm American. Who's really want American help? That was good. I like that. Who's funding Kony and the LRA? I mean, do you have major problems coming from some foolish U.S. senators putting money or support into Kony and his group? That's my question for both of you.
As far as I know, I don't think any U.S. People are funding them or supplying them. In the past couple of years, it's been said, like the Sudanese government, you know, with the war, the genocide in Darfur, you know, Kony, and it was rumored that the Sudanese government funded them, like with arms and such and such. Also, when they've had like peace talks in the, you know, back in the 80s and even like as recent as 2006 and 2008, every single time Kony, as you saw, decided, oh, okay, you know, let's have a peace talk, he would not necessarily go. He would send someone else, and then he would use that time to like, you know, as a sign of good faith, they gave them food and, you know, medicine and stuff like that. So he would just kind of like replenish his army and stuff like that, and then attack the following time. So as far as funding now, I don't want to assume specifically who might be funding Kony.
I mean, as Marie Claire said, I mean, there's a very complex geopolitical game that's going on with the Ugandan government funding rebels in Sudan, Sudanese government's funding rebels in Uganda, you know, blood diamond, lots of minerals around the area. The two Indian men I interviewed, I mean, they were talking about, one of them was talking about gun running back in the 60s. Even just the other day, I mean, in America there's a gun runner, a famous gun runner, a Russian man who was arrested and sent to jail. So, I mean, there are all kinds of weird underworld happenings well, everywhere, including Africa. Obviously, Kony, living in the jungles of Africa, you know, he's not making guns by himself. He's not, you know, using a cash economy, but somehow he's able to replenish and to keep going for 25 years. You don't do that just by chance. I don't know the details, but I can't imagine that you can have that many guns, feed that many people over 26 years living in the bush without access to some kind of funding. But going back to what the lady over there said, absolutely right. Uganda, Africa, it's not one country. I mean, there are about 30 languages in Uganda. You know, people are very different in terms of their cultures. But when I was there, part of the point of showing the pictures was to show that there are tremendous signs of progress. I mean, things have changed remarkably since I was there as a child. You know, people are very entrepreneurial. They're all young. They're all under 45, most of them. They don't wait hanging around for the government to come and help them out, or even for aid from abroad. They're creating their own small businesses. They're building their own houses. They're building their own schools. What they need mostly is peace, and that's what's been lacking for the last 25 years. And for the children, I think, going back to my brother's story, He's in England now, he's doing very well, but there are lots of kids who weren't so lucky. I mean, I was lucky as well. I managed to escape. But there are many kids who did not. There are many kids who are very traumatized by these events, having to kill, seeing people killed. I think I was lucky. I mean, I only saw maybe, I don't know, 15 deaths. But I never actually experienced it personally, just somebody else. But these kids, they actually were either involved or their families were directly involved. So I think these invisible children are the ones really we should leave here thinking about, and the trauma that they suffer. And it's not just in Africa, it's really a global problem in South America, the Middle East, Asia.
In fact, my question was anticipated by the Moroccan young lady, but from a different perspective. From your presentation, John, I get the impression that child soldiers is not a Uganda problem. It's a global problem, as you rightly said. So while finding Kony may solve some of the problem, but it will not really solve the real problem. The problems are still there. Children who don't get to go to school or things of that kind. So I think we need to pay attention to that aspect.
Thank you, Professor. You're right.
My question is, how is the understanding of Kony? How do people, particularly young people in Uganda, find out about Kony, and how does that compare to basically how we found out about Kony, our knowledge of Kony through the YouTube video, Kony 2012? What are the main differences between that understanding?
I guess the youth in Uganda, it's pretty easy to, I guess, find out information if you own like a television or a radio. A radio is the best way to.
Or if he attacks your primary school.
Yes, or that. It's easier. At least as a child, it was easy for me to find out about it because it was it was in the papers, it was on the TV, it was on the radio. Or if you didn't even hear about it, someone would tell you about it. Or did you hear about this? But I mean, back then that's all we could talk about it because we didn't know what we could do. I mean, there are other NGOs that were there before Invisible Children that, tried, that did help and did make results, but, not a lot of people hear about it. So I guess Invisible Children try to put it out on a larger scale. And so I guess that's the main difference in how you hear about it in the youth of the rest of the world. Well, you have all this social media, everybody's has a computer or knows somebody who has a computer, so it's easier to find out information. So.
John, if you want to last word.
Yep. There are tons of NGOs, including the wonderful Japanese NGO that I run into in Uganda. I think they're called Terra Renaissance. It's like a katakana. Terra Renaissance. I mean, they're Japanese, but basically most of Uganda functions through NGOs, through communities working with each other, or trying to. And to be honest, you have to go there and see for yourself. It's a remarkable country that has just gone through a very difficult period, but it's changing tremendously. When I was there, there's a huge, fantastic national park. I mean, there's several. I think Churchill, the former British Prime Minister back in the day, he described it as the Pearl of Africa, and I think it really is. Apart from the cultural divisions, it's such a fantastically beautiful place, and it's a shame that there's been 25 years of war that has ruined most of it. But yeah, you have to go there and see for yourself.
I just want to finish off by saying that arresting Kony and his top LRA commanders, I know that won't, end the problem and what's going on in, Central Africa and, all the people who have the victims of his violence. But I think it's a step, where it goes from there, it's up to us and people in those communities and the change they make. So I'm not saying, it will solve, the whole entire problem, but I think it's a good step. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you, John. Thank you.